Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. This is Friday, January 5th, and I've collected our executive team to give you an update on the proposed weather issue that we intend to have. We expect to be coming on Saturday night into Sunday, and to let you know where we are in terms of our anticipation of what's about to happen and the preparations that we're making along those lines. I'm joined by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, our Director of Operations, Joan McDonald, our Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Emergency Services, Susan Spear, and our Director of Emergency Management, Dennis Del Borgo, also in the Department of Emergency Services. We have not present here, but working on these issues, Hugh Grecian, our Commissioner of the Department of Public Works and Transportation, Terrence Raynor, who is the Commissioner of our Department of Public Safety, the County Police, Richard Wishney, who is our Commissioner of the Department of Emergency Services, and truthfully, every element of the county government. We have an element when we have bad weather where we look at our Department of Social Services, Leonard Towns and his people, to deal with elements of this. We try to be prepared if it's a heavy rain incident, to be prepared with our sewer treatment plants in our Department of Environmental Facilities, headed by Vincent Kapicki. So all of us at some level are involved in these issues, and we want to give you an idea of where we are. We're operating as a county government alongside local governments, the state government, and at some level the federal government, and all of those issues mesh together when we look at what may be a significant storm incident. We have not had a major storm incident of snow here in Westchester throughout the course of this winter season, which legally began sometime in December, but practical terms, we can get snow as early as November. Here we are in early January. This is the first potential that it happens. Our county runs north-south for roughly 30-some-odd miles, and so the weather that we get in the southern part of our county is not necessarily the weather we get in the northern part of our county, so we have to look at the county holistically and with those regional implications that are at hand. We're going to cover some of the basic issues here, what the weather looks like. As far as we can tell from this vantage point, we're still more than 24 hours away from the beginning of the storm. We're going to talk about some of the safety plans, the county plans that we have, and then Ken Jenkins and myself will both have some closing comments to try to give you a sense of things. And I would say generically, if you're watching this in real time and not watching it on tape, the smartest thing that I can suggest to do is stay in touch with the various media outlets, the television and radio stations. Obviously, a certain amount of information comes to you through emergency services on your cell phone, because situations will change. And even when you go to bed on Saturday night, whatever the circumstances are, they might be different by Sunday morning. And to the extent, and you'll hear other people say the same thing, to the extent that you can plan now for your Saturday activities, your Sunday morning activities, take into account that you may have difficult weather conditions to deal with. If you have to go out, you may need more time to get where you're going. Certain roads may be closed, and factor that into the decisions you're making. And obviously, if you don't have to be out, if it's not a necessity, then try not to be out. As it comes to pass, this is not happening on a normal weekday, so we're not having the normal weekday issues of commuting, going to school, and that is a benefit to us, so we should be able to get through this pretty comfortably. First off, I just want to highlight that our team is always focused around the Department of Emergency Services, and I'm going to ask Dennis Del Borgo to cover with us what the weather reports are at this moment, and as we look prospectively, understanding that even the best weatherman can't absolutely predict what's going to happen. But Dennis, based on what you know to be the case at this point, please give us an idea of what we look like we're facing.
Thank you very much, Mr. County Executive, and good afternoon and Happy New Year to you all. The team and I at Westchester Emergency Management, we've been in touch with our partners at the National Weather Service, and they have been continuously feeding us updates to the forecast for this weekend. If you have been monitoring the weather, there haven't been any major changes to the forecast that you may have heard earlier in the day. However, those snow accumulation totals are starting to creep up, so it's something that we are keeping a close eye on. As the county executive mentioned, this is impacting us overnight on a weekend, so we don't anticipate any major impacts to our commutes. However, as dry and cool conditions forecast through tomorrow morning do start to change over on Saturday, we'll start to see some snowfall and some wintry mix here in Westchester County. So we do expect some snow mixed with rain at some point during the day on Saturday into Sunday, and as the county executive mentioned, there is a pretty substantial difference in forecast between northern and southern Westchester counties. If you lived here a long time, you know that I-287 is that kind of dividing line, and that is representation of where we see that transition occurring. with respect to those local weather conditions. We do anticipate the highest snow accumulations will occur in northern Westchester County, so if you live in those communities, that's something you certainly want to keep an eye on over the next 24 hours. While we do anticipate that less severe conditions will occur in southern Westchester County, it's something to keep an eye on as well. And this forecast track, if that is to shift, we could see substantial increases in snowfall totals in southern Westchester versus a switch over to plain rain. So as of this afternoon, the forecast did call for about 1 to 3 inches of snow, most likely accumulating in southern Westchester County, up to 3 to 5 inches or so in central Westchester, but south of 287, and mostly a changeover to a wintry mix to plain rain is also possible in those areas. The temperatures in southern Westchester are expected to be slightly above freezing, so if we do see that transition occur and it's sustained, we could see up to 1 inch of rainfall in southern Westchester County. The reasonable worst case, per the National Weather Service's models, do indicate somewhere in the area of 3 to 6 inches south of 287, potentially for the duration of this event. They have posted a winter storm watch, which remains in effect for northern Westchester County from Saturday evening through Sunday afternoon. So that's the time period that we're going to be looking to keep a close eye on this system. In total, most likely, we're going to see somewhere in the 5 to 10 inch range of snowfall accumulation north of 287, with a worst case, reasonable worst case of 8 to 12 inches possibly in those areas. We do expect, as the county executive mentioned, that as we get closer to the storm impact, we'll start to refine and tune those forecasts from the National Weather Service with some greater certainty. We do expect some gusty winds as well, particularly along our coast, and as that wind kicks up during the snowfall, we could see some hazardous driving conditions, so that's something to be aware of if you are out and about on Saturday night. This is a wet snow, so if you do your own snow removal and you're shoveling this yourself, be mindful of your own health and limitations as you're out there clearing the snow overnight or Sunday morning. We could see some down trees and power lines. We've been in contact with the public utilities, Con Ed and NYSEG, and they are prepared to respond to those as needed. The potential for coastal flooding does exist. However, we anticipate that will be minor and in the most vulnerable areas of southern Westchester. So this is just one of those forecasted systems that we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to keep a close eye on this and keep the team here up to speed on the latest and greatest. And we're there to support the local municipalities in any way that they may require as we respond to this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. The information that we have at this stage of the game involves the county government working cooperatively with a host of partners. And as you may know, whenever these things happen, we deal with those partners. They have certain distinct responsibilities for the assets that they have, and we have to coordinate those things as closely as possible. Joan McDonald, who's our Director of Operations, has these partnerships in place with various other agencies, and in her prior experience, she was the New York State Commissioner of the Department of Transportation. So she had to worry about things from Buffalo to Montauk. Now we sort of narrowed that down to Peekskill to Pelham, which is, I think, helpful.
Yes, it is.
But the bottom line is those relationships now come into play when we deal with the state level assets and the assets that are owned by some of the major agencies. So I want Joan to cover some of that, if you would, Joan.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, County Executive. As the County Executive mentioned, we do have regular conversations with our partners in the state. We're in touch with both New York State DOT and the New York State Thruway Authority, and they are prepared for the storm and ready to keep our major roadways and parkways clear. As of right now, Metro North, Liberty Lines, our county paratransit system, and the county airport have a normal weekend service schedule as of today. However, that could change. As we often say, if you are flying, check with your carrier before you leave for the airport and make sure you include plenty of time. I'm going to give you some information from about our individual departments, but it's important to note that it's all coordinated through our Department of Emergency Services. We have what we like to call a well-oiled machine when it comes to emergency response here. Our Department of Public Works and the County Police will be monitoring conditions on the Bronx River Parkway and other roads serviced by the county, and they may close or detour as needed. The county police and the Department of Emergency Services will have additional personnel available to respond to calls for service and to monitor the storm impact on local communities. And as both the county executive and Dennis said, we are fortunate that this is a weekend. We don't have the normal commuting patterns, but we still want to make sure that we have sufficient personnel to respond to any emergencies that may occur on those roadways. Events scheduled at the county center and in our parks are, as of right now, scheduled as of today. And lastly, our Department of Social Services and Health are monitoring the forecast. It is not anticipated at this time that critical services will be interrupted, but if in fact they are prepared to step up and make sure that the needs of our most vulnerable population are met. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Joan. Now, there are preparations that we make as a government. Joan's highlighted some of that, Dennis has as well, but there are also preparations that we encourage you as an individual citizen to make. Most of these things are common sense, as I almost always say in these things. These were things that Mom and Dad told us about when we were younger. I can't say that I honestly paid attention in those years, but now, in my responsibilities now, it's always a good reminder to be prepared because the power may go out. You may find that the driveway that takes you to the street is impassable. You may find that you're going to have to winter it out in your home overnight potentially, and you need to have certain types of things available. So Susan Spear, our Deputy Commissioner of DES, will cover some of those common sense situations, and you don't have to be embarrassed if you have to write them down. They're not on a final exam, but will be tested over the course of the next 24, 48 hours, and we want everybody to pass the test. Susan.
Thank you so much, County Executive. Disappear for a second there. Thank you also to the Deputy County Executive and Director McDonald and Emergency Manager Dennis Del Borgo for doing a great job and showing true leadership that we need through these storms. It's been a while since we've had a significant snowstorm in Westchester County, so I want people to take this seriously. As a reminder, please remember how to drive in this type of snow and think seriously about what it means if you do lose power or you have another incident in your home. I also want to emphasize that this is going to be the wet, heavy stuff, not the light, fluffy stuff. So another reason to take it very seriously. If you're shoveling, it's hard to shovel. If you're driving, it's really hard to drive. So make sure you be really respectful of this very heavy, wet snow, not the light, fluffy stuff. So please do keep emergency supplies in your home and in your car. Know where they are so you don't have to look for them. If the power goes out, you know where your batteries are, where your flashlights are. Check your smoke detectors. Check your carbon monoxide detectors. Make sure their batteries are functioning. Leave a lot of extra time for travel if you do have to travel, but I really want to urge people to stay home. Please, stay home if you don't have to go out. Let the road crews do their work. Let the utility crews do their work. Let the first responders respond to emergencies. Make sure you give them plenty of room. I really want to take a minute to thank in advance our first responders, fire, EMS, police, as well as our emergency 911 dispatchers who will be on duty all night, throughout the night, making sure that people get the services they need if there is an emergency. So Saturday night to Sunday morning is going to be the worst. So that's the time you really should stay home if you don't have to go out. If you see downed wires, please don't try to drive over them. Turn around, go around. Same if roads are flooded or closed, don't move the barriers, turn around, and be safe. If you have a generator, please keep it outside, not inside. It's a really important safety factor because you don't want to have carbon monoxide in your home, especially as you keep your windows shut and your doors shut during this cold weather. Be a good neighbor, check on your neighbors, especially people who live alone or maybe elderly, and make sure that they're okay. Closely monitor the news and make sure that there isn't a significant change and there isn't information that you may need to keep yourself safe. So with that, I want to thank our county leadership and our first responders in advance for the work that they'll be doing over the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. And on behalf of the general county, I want to thank you, Rich Wishney, and the team in Emergency Services for your work in advance and the work that's going to happen during the course of all of this. I'd like Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive, next to come to the microphone. And I want to tell you, this is going to be a wet, heavy snow, which means it's great snowball and snow fort making snow. And I'm told that nobody made a better fort when he was a young man than Ken Jenkins. So I want to be on his side in the snowball fight if we get to that point. Ken Jenkins.
Thanks, George. Certainly want to make sure that we're echoing things that have been saying, and there should be a theme that is going on. One is that it's weather, right? So there's no perfection in that. However, it's best to err on the side of caution. So again, whether you're in lower Westchester, in the southern part of Westchester, where the predictions are anywhere between a dusting to 1 to 3 inches of snow, to the northern parts of our county, whether it is 3 to 6 or 4 to 8 or 8 to 12, it doesn't really matter. We really should all just take this seriously. And as Deputy Commissioner Spear was pointing out, to ensure that many people have not been involved in this weather for a couple of years. It is two different kinds of things happening. One is that it's snow, and if it starts to rain and slushy, that wintry mix, that usually means there's ice under that as well. So there's a lot of potentials for accidents to happen, so that's even more reason to take your time. And if you don't have to go outside, as everyone has mentioned so far, don't do it, all right? You don't need to be out there. And certainly, as the county executive pointed out, all of our parents told us the same things to make sure that we kept in our car in case of an emergency, making sure that we had water and our devices are all charged up to be able to move forward. But more importantly, if you don't have to go outside, don't do it. Make sure you do check on your neighbors. And if you have, when you go outside to take care of the snow, especially the ones when it's 1 to 3 inches, because many of us have equipment that does the higher amounts of snow, but you should take your time. And besides just warming up your body, making sure that you're taking that time, because it is one of those unfortunate things that happen, especially overdoing it in that wet, heavy snow, not the light, fluffy stuff. Yes, it's good for a snowball fight, but it's also a very, very challenging for folks that are trying to do that and shovel that snow, and certainly it could be a significant event for yourself individually. Once again, making sure that we're taking our time through this. And Deputy Commissioner Spear and Director Del Borgo said that we need to make sure to get out of the way for our emergency and first responders. But one of those first responders in the snowstorms are the Department of Public Works crews that are out there, Department of Transportation crews, and not to be following them, trying to be right behind the snow plows and the salters as they're going out there. I know in the last few days, because of the temperature drops, I know up here in White Plains, I know I saw the telltale spots along the road where that was pre-treating that was going on. That pre-treating is going to happen throughout the county, but make sure that you give those vehicles, when they're doing Department of Transportation work and clearing those roads, public works, etc., make sure you give them plenty of space and let them do their job. And again, if you can stay home, basically do stay home. Back to you, George.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks.
So let me just recap a little bit of what we've said here. We expect the storm incident to begin sometime later on Saturday, to be a Saturday night into a Sunday morning in the early part of Sunday day scenario. That time frame could adjust depending on the track of the storm. We expect that there will be worsening conditions in the northern part of the county compared to the southern part of the county, and it can range in the southern part of the county from a rain incident to potentially 5 inches of snow or more. In the northern part of the county, it could range 10 to 12 inches, worst case scenario. And whatever will happen, we'll see the track of the storm as we get closer to it and circumstances. We are taking the necessary precautions in advance, and we're prepared to close down those county roads that we have responsibility for. The most notable one is Bronx River Parkway, which routinely floods and becomes difficult to operate between the county center and the split in Bronxville from the Sprain and the Bronx River. We also have responsibility for the Grasslands Reservation, which is a significant area. That is access to the Westchester County or the Westchester Medical Center, also to the correctional institution, some other facilities out there. So we, the county, will be responsible for doing that. The state DOT, State Thruway Authority, will be responsible for state roads. In every case as possible, look at your schedule for the weekend and determine whether or not the things that you're planning to do are still scheduled. There have been some reassignments of different activities from Sunday, some into Saturday, some into another week. Know in advance before you get to that point. If you're planning to attend religious services and those services are also offered at other times, earlier on a Saturday evening, later on a Sunday, consider whether or not your plans can be adjusted so that you aren't out going to a religious service in the heart of whatever the weather conditions are. If you are planning to travel in and out of Westchester County Airport, as was mentioned, we do not anticipate the airport will close, but you should talk to your carrier to make sure that the flights that are scheduled to arrive or depart on Saturday in the afternoon, evening, and on Sunday morning through the middle of the day are still scheduled to happen. And they may not know those decisions at this point. They may not know it for another 24 hours, but be alert to that and do your due diligence ahead to make sure that's the case. Be mindful that if we lose power, a combination of local resources and county resources will go into dealing with that. Your town government, your village government, and your city government is on alert in the same way that we are. We are working cooperatively. I know Ken and I plan tomorrow to talk to Dr. Richard Becker, the supervisor of Cortland, and Mayor Sean Patterson Howard, the mayor of Mount Vernon, and all the municipalities in between, to see exactly what needs they have, if the county can be helpful to them, partner where necessary. But there will be circumstances that will make it inconvenient for any of us to move about. And so anticipate that. Give yourself as much advance time as you can. Do all of the things that Susan said to prepare yourself. So if you do have to hunker down overnight and you're not able to get out at 9 o'clock at night, if there are medicine issues, go to your pharmacy tomorrow earlier in the day. Make sure that you've satisfied those needs. If there are any other issues, if you need a delivery of oil, try to get it before you get into the heart of of all of these things. We have gone through this before. We are New Yorkers. We're hardened. This isn't the first snowfall that we've ever lived through, but we have to remember to go through the same diligent steps that we have. If we do all of those things, we'll get through this. We'll make decisions on the Beeline bus system depending on what we see. We'll make decisions on some of our other services. At this point, we have not canceled any of our parks events. We have a limited number of events this time of the year anyway. But nonetheless, call ahead, and we'll be happy to tell you what we're doing as a county government. Be safe, and we'll have a chance to talk to you on Monday, and we'll have survived this particular incident, and we'll be ready for whatever else Mother Nature has to send our way. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thank you for watching. We hope that you and your family will be safe, and we'll speak to you again on Monday. Have a great day.